Start off by talking about what I have termed the internal family system. Now, how I've come to define that is basically the result of, having had experiences with my own biological family of origin that have basically been very painful and very contradictory to that of my own highest truth as far as existing in this world. Now, from what I've understood, reading my horoscope chart, now I have both Uranus and Neptune in my fourth house. I have my Uranus in Sagittarius and my Neptune in Capricorn. Now, the Uranus influence in my fourth house, which is the house that's related to my own personal home, domestic matters, all that stuff that relates to survival and the watery element, of shelter and safety and security and just feeling, really developing a good vibe for what is considered to be, a good home for me. The Uranus influence in that house means that I've needed individual autonomy. And of course, being in Sagittarius, now I of course grew up in a traditional religious family, and it's also been a family that has been both very emotionally smothering and emotionally cold and distant too. And this to me has created some real friction in my environment and need to establish personal individual autonomy, which basically means having to, sever myself from my roots altogether. Now, I'm not going to go into too many details about my past because I feel that for me, every moment that I've lived up to the present is nothing more than just a past life. It's just a tiny little atom containing just the collection of layered memories within each and every moment in my personal time continuum leading up to now. And so, it's like living on my own now in my own one-bedroom apartment for the last almost 4 months now is really the only life that I'd like to identify with, because my life up till then, up till 4 months ago, was about toxic codependency on people who were just complete and total aliens to me. That's why I completely disagree with what a lot of these fluffy New Agers say, that we choose our parents. Well, yes and no. I think there's a lot of arrogance with some of those people who say that we choose our parents, because first of all, I would just like to say that understanding the element of water as a metaphor to understand what the family, what the whole family and home system is like, is to say that it is always bound to take on many different shapes and forms. And when you're born, you're completely vulnerable to these people who you project this high deity-like influence onto, so it's like your parents become these mighty deities in your life who basically dictate and command, the rules to your very, very world that you live in. And when it's an environment that brings hurt rather than nurturement, I definitely think, it's not like babies are born with an inbred ability to accept sadism. So to say that we choose our parents is utter BS. It really is. And I'm going to stick it to all those people who say otherwise. I mean, I think at the same time, to an extent, we're all born with a certain blueprint that, I guess we choose out of our own, premeditative design when we exist in that quantum realm just before we're born into the material world. When we descend from the ethereal plane of existence through the many different levels of the tree of life, to this physical plane of existence that we live on now. But, then it's like in coming to terms with understanding the very nature of the people who raise us and the people that we're surrounded with. I think the real family exists within, and it exists, as a manifestation of me and the many, many different sides of me, and the potential family members, chosen family members that I want to attract that reflect a certain side of myself, a certain side of my whole, where I am a part of that whole. It's like a gestalt system, so some people are very fortunate to have had parents that were extremely nurturing and loving and caring and selfless. I have had no such parents. I mean, I have very few people in my family that I can really say were any positive influence on me, except 2 Aquarian members, an uncle and a grandfather on my mom's side of the family who, one has passed away and the other one is in really bad health, that I can't really say that I am able to have access to him anymore because he's become a hermit now, and I basically take his energy away, just through his own personal circumstances, which require him, to be completely alone with himself. Which is kind of what I'm doing right now anyways, except that at the same time, I need, the company of others, and, in order to have, in order to keep this lake bed supported. And that all starts from within anyways, working on that root chakra. And just briefly moving now to my Neptune influence in the 4th house, that definitely reveals the spiritual side of myself, the need to cultivate a solitary existence within my home. And since it's in Capricorn, I have even with all my interests in the esoteric and the spiritual, I do have a very practical approach to the chakras, or to to like neuro-linguistic programming, or visualization techniques, or whatever else, any types of brain altering, conscious altering techniques. There's a very, very practical approach that I take to it all. So that definitely helps. And so, but the root chakra, as I was getting at, is where I am working on that storehouse, which, I hope to unravel and meet my internal family members within, so that I can eventually learn to find those family members then from without. It's all very, very reflective, basically.